is Justine Rosenthal. I'm the editor of The National Interest, and we are here today with one of my favorite authors, Bruce Riedel, who is going to talk about his most recent cover story for The National Interest, If Israel Attacks, which is about Israel's nuclear monopoly in the Middle East, although an unspoken monopoly, that it looks like that monopoly is going to end with the advent of the Iranian nuclear program, that this makes the Israelis extremely uncomfortable, that they are likely to strike, and that there are some measures the United States can take to prevent that disastrous outcome. Because I think you think that that will not go well.
Right.
You are a long-time Israel hand. You were part of the Camp David Accords. You have been a career CIA officer. You are now a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. And I think there is no greater authority, no more honest authority. So tell us, what can the United States do to prevent this kind of attack? Is there anything that realistically the Israelis will listen to?
I think there are things that the Israelis can hear from the United States that gives them a measure of assurance that when their monopoly on nuclear weapons comes to an end, because Iran crosses the threshold, they don't have to attack, because America will ensure Israel's nuclear supremacy for the foreseeable future. A simple way is the statement, declaratory statement, that a nuclear attack on Israel by anyone will be regarded by the United States as a nuclear attack on the United States and will be met with a nuclear response, a nuclear umbrella. Hillary Clinton talked about this during the campaign in 2008. Ehud Barak raised it at Camp David in 2000. But we can do even more than that. We can actually physically assist Israel with weapons systems like advanced F-22 Raptor jet aircraft that would ensure its capacity to retaliate against any conceivable foe for the foreseeable future. The Israelis are not going to simply take an American, please don't do it. We've got to do more than that. We've got to match our request to them not to do it with some real tangibles that suggest we're assisting the maintenance of their qualitative edge for as long into the future as possible.
I'll tell you, Bruce, I almost made this very bold assumption that it's sort of all right if the Iranians have nuclear weapons. I mean, we are basing our entire discussion on the idea that that's a better outcome in many ways than an Israeli attack on those facilities. Is that the case, and why is that the case, and particularly because that goes against what so many people believe?
For Israelis, it's understandable why they're so concerned. This is an Islamic Republic of Iran that from day one in 1978 has been talking about wiping Israel off the map. Ahmadinejad has gotten all of our attention for saying it now. The Ayatollah Khomeini said it 30 years ago. It's understandable why the Israelis would feel like this. But from an American standpoint, and I'm an American, speak from the American standpoint, an attack on Iran right now will be seen by the Iranians as American supported. It will be American-supplied aircraft. It will be American-supplied munitions. This is a country we give $3 billion in military assistance to every year. From the Iranian perspective, they will retaliate against not just Israel, but also the United States. And the United States is today uniquely vulnerable in ways that it not normally is. We're engaged in two wars in the Middle East, one on Iran's eastern border and one on Iran's western border. Those wars could get a whole lot more difficult if Iran decides it's been attacked by America and it's going to fight back against America. Our posture in the Persian Gulf, our posture in the Eastern Mediterranean, our embassies, all kinds of things are extremely vulnerable to Iranian blowback from this kind of an operation. So from our standpoint, yes, it's a disaster to engage in a third war in the Middle East today.
Is that to some extent because you believe an Israeli strike would be at least passively supported by the United States? They would be right about that, not only because of our ammunition, but because they would have to fly over American-controlled airspace. But I'm also sensing that you assume, and I know it, that an Israeli attack will not be successful, or at least not successful enough.
I don't want to underestimate Israel's capabilities. The Israelis have a long track record of coming up with original military solutions to very difficult problems. this is a very difficult problem. It's not Iraq, it's not Syria. It's a country a lot further away, much bigger geography, with a dispersed nuclear infrastructure. And there's no assurance that we or the Israelis even know where all of that dispersed nuclear infrastructure is. Most experts who looked at this also believe that even a pretty successful attack, a very successful attack, will only set the Iranians back 2, 3, maybe even only 1 year in terms of their capacity to rebuild.
So not worth it at all, because the repercussions, which will be almost immediate attacks, I assume almost immediate conventional attacks by the Iranians, don't, the benefits certainly don't outweigh those costs.
That's right. Cost-benefits analysis doesn't point to this as anything other than, for America, a strategic disaster.
Right, well, then tell me what happens. The Iranians get nuclear weapons. Everybody is worried about Hezbollah. That now we are going to really see that extremely unlikely but highly dangerous scenario of nuclear-armed terrorists become a reality, and that there will be an enormous nuclear arms race in the Middle East.
Don't get me wrong, David. I don't think an Iran with nuclear weapons is a good thing. Nobody does. An Iran with nuclear weapons will be more assertive, will be more self-confident. It will intimidate its neighbors where it can. But it's already the #1 patron state sponsor of terrorism in the world. It already gives Hezbollah an enormous amount of equipment. It already gives Hamas an enormous amount of equipment. It has been the #1 patron state sponsor of terrorism for 30 years. The qualitative difference, I think, is pretty hard to measure between what they're doing now and what they would do in a new environment. I think it's highly unlikely that Iran is going to give nuclear weapons to anyone that it doesn't completely control, including Hezbollah and Iranian terrorist groups. Yes, when Iran crosses the nuclear threshold, there will be responses throughout the region. But we've lived in a Middle East that's had a nuclear arms race now for 30 years. 7 countries have tried to match Israel's attempt at acquiring nuclear weapons. The reasons Libya, Algeria, Egypt, Iraq, Syria have not gotten there are not going to go away simply because Iran acquires nuclear weapons. Nor are the Israelis going to cease trying to prevent a 3rd nuclear weapon state in the Middle East.
Now, rumor has it that you have the president's ear. True or not? Give us your one big wrap-up piece of advice for President Obama of how to handle this situation in a way that he is not handling it now.
I think he has to have a very candid conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I think Secretary Gates has to have a similar conversation with the Israeli Defense Minister, and it has to go beyond conversation. It's got to go towards, let's talk about the nuclear balance of power in the Middle East, including your balance, Israel's nuclear forces, and how we can assist you so that you feel safe and secure for the foreseeable future.
Bruce, thank you very much for being with us, and I hope to have you again soon.
Thank you.